In this video, I will explain why a CRA strike is likely to happen and what it means for you. The problem. For CRA workers, their wages have stalled while the cost of living has continued to rise. From the workers' perspectives, they want wages that keep up with inflation, but the agency has refused to respond to their wage offer. The strike vote will be held from January 31st to April 7th, ahead of the April 30th tax filing deadline. This is important because it means that if the CRA workers vote for a strike, and if you haven't filed your taxes before the April 30th deadline, you will likely experience tax disruptions. If you think there will not be a strike, your reasoning will likely be along these lines. Since workers are continuing to see their wages eroded by inflation, while at the same time gaining more bargaining power due to a tighter labor market, there is heightened pressure that benefits employees. And to this, I largely agree with your position. I think that with low unemployment rates and higher job vacancy rates, it's harder for employers to fill vacant positions. In fact, this alone is incentive for employers to meet the demands of their workers. You're probably wondering how I can agree with this position, but yet still believe the CRA will likely strike. Here's my answer. The CRA will likely strike because all we have to do is look back at last year. For example, in May of 2022, 30,000 workers in several trades walked off the job, and May is a very busy month for construction. This was the first sign of inflation's impact on labor negotiations. In November of 2022, 55,000 education workers went on strike, and the government invoked the constitutional clause to override the strike. And the only reason why the government backed down was because other unions in the private and public sector threatened to strike in solidarity with the education workers. The same general ingredient that was present in the two major strikes last year is present in the impending one now with the CRA, which is there's a shortage of workers, wages are lagging, and there has been no movement on the side of the employer. This will leave the CRA workers with no choice but to strike, like we experienced last year with education workers. What does this mean for you? If you don't file your taxes early before a potential strike, then you could face issues in receiving reimbursements. But the length of the delays depends on the length of the disruption. Since this strike would be highly disruptive, it's not likely to last long, which means the issues you face in receiving reimbursements won't last long. But 91% of taxes that were filed last year were done online, which means the front end of the tax process won't be as disruptive to those who file their taxes online. If you're mad at CRA workers for striking, please don't be, because raising the wages for the public sector raises the bar for everyone else as well. This is because when it's raised at a federal level, it usually trickles down to the provincial or territorial and into the private sector as well. Given the fact that inflation has affected everyone, I think everyone benefits from CRA workers receiving a higher wage increase, especially in times like these with high inflation. Probably the most important question you have is, what if you want to resolve a dispute about money owed to the CRA? How would a strike affect your ability to resolve the dispute? The answer to this is that since the CRA would be on strike, it would not be able to resolve the issue at an administrative level. This means that it would go to the judicial level, which is the courts. But what is likely to happen would be what happened during the height of COVID, where the legal system would be so backed up that nothing gets done. For instance, I know people who've received speeding tickets during the pandemic in 2020 and are still waiting on a court date to fight the ticket. Since all taxes claimed by the CRA bear interest on a daily compounding basis, would you be required to pay interest and penalties during a strike? The answer to this question is technically yes, but I think for the most part, the government would suspend the imposition of interest and penalties during a strike to remain fair to taxpayers. I just want to remind you that I'm not an accountant. I'm an accredited financial counselor with a specialization in financial coaching. If you have any general questions, I can provide my opinions based on my experiences and understanding of taxes. But it's best if you consult with an actual accountant to get the best advice for your situation. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to the Money Time Coaching channel below so you don't miss any helpful content going forward. I'll see you in my next one.
Subscribe now.